Hello, this is Dinah Lane from the Harwich Channel, and I'm here today with Hadley Luddy of the Homeless Prevention Council and Katie Wibby of the Lower Cape Outreach Council. And I've asked them to come here together today because some of their work overlaps, and this is part of what we want to get to the bottom of. It's what each of these organizations does and how they serve the communities. So welcome to both of you.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Hadley.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
And Katie.
Thank you.
Hadley, why don't you start with the work of the Homeless Prevention Council? First, maybe tell us about the mission, really,
Sure.
of the organization.
So our mission at the Homeless Prevention Council is to provide personalized case management to promote stability for all who live in our community. So basically, we pair case managers with local individuals and families to help them on a long-term, comprehensive basis, support their needs and come up with a plan to both be stably housed and hopefully financially secure.
Mm-hmm. And what is the community? How do you define your community?
So our community is defined as the 8 towns of the Lower and Outer Cape. So that's from Harwich to Provincetown.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a few additional programs that go into Dennis and Yarmouth through a program called Resident Services, which supports people that are living in subsidized and affordable housing, as well as youth outreach that we are now doing actually on a Cape and Islands-wide basis, about to launch a youth homeless demonstration grant to focus specifically on young adults who are unstably housed or homeless.
So you're really broadening your
Broadening to some degree, right, in a couple
Yeah.
of specific
Yeah.
areas, and otherwise very much focused on the Lower and Outer Cape.
And that's through the use of grants?
Through the use of grants, through the use of private donations and private foundations, and
Yes.
some state and now a little bit of federal dollars too. So we've got a diversified funding source.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Good.
great.
Katie, can you tell us the mission of the Lower Cape Outreach Council?
Absolutely. So the Lower Cape Outreach Council's mission is to provide comprehensive assistance to those in need of immediate support and encourage long-term self-sufficiency. So our 3 primary programs, although we do some seasonal ones as well, is we have 9 emergency food pantries, 1 in every town of the Lower and Outer Cape, and then actually 2 in Orleans because we opened our pantry in our main building, our headquarters, to the public just this year to keep up with the demand. Excuse me, that was actually last year. In addition to the 9 emergency food pantries, we have a financial assistance program, and Katie's Corner, which is our free clothing and household resource, which is also in our headquarters in Orleans, which provides clothing and other items free of charge for our clients.
I see. And people drop things off there to donate? Is that what they do? How do you get the material that you sell at Katie's Corner? You give it away?
Give it away, yep. We give everything away. It's managed almost entirely by volunteers, and it's stocked with donations from the community. So on occasion, we will buy certain items that are harder to get depending on a client's needs, but the vast majority of it is through the generosity of our community and donations.
Okay. And how do you two see your 2 organizations working together?
So I would say that I think our work really complements each other very much so. In fact, it really, I don't think there's a day that goes by at HPC when a case manager isn't reaching out to Katie and Andy and the team at LCOC to ask for financial assistance for a client. Really oftentimes more than anything, I think between referrals that we're receiving for people that need more long-term comprehensive support, or vice versa for folks that we're working with that need some emergency assistance or need to go to, whether it's Katie's Corner or a food pantry. I think we've developed a really good, way of collaborating, right, and supporting our community together. So I think it's really an asset, really, for the Lower Outer Cape to have our 2 organizations.
And just doing it in a way that's not duplicating services, right? There's limited resources in our area, and we want to make sure we're utilizing them to the fullest extent possible.
Absolutely.
As opposed to Hadley, she has several case managers. How many do you have over there?
We do. We have 5 case managers now. Yeah.
We have a much smaller team over at Lower Cape Outreach Council. So we have 1 licensed social worker who's our manager of client services, who's the one who's often in touch with the case managers, making referrals for those more complex cases that they can work with them long term.
Right.
So speaking of people who work with you, do you have volunteers? Are there volunteers who are able to help in any way with your organizations?
Do you want to speak to volunteers first? Because you guys do a lot.
Yeah. We rely heavily on volunteers. Year round, we have about 150 volunteers, everything from the front office, so answering the phones, the first point of contact for our clients when they come in, Like I said, Katie's Corner is entirely run by volunteers. Our food pantries are entirely run by volunteers. And our financial assistance program also, although managed by the manager of client services, volunteer advocates work directly with the clients as well to administer the financial assistance program. Not to mention, we do a Thanksgiving distribution and Santa Stop, which is our holiday toy distribution, all of which is primarily run with volunteers. We really couldn't do it without them.
And so if people wish to volunteer, how would they go about doing that?
We go right on our website. There's a volunteer portal. You can put in your information. You'll hear from Karen Ross, who's our director of operations. One of her many hats is also managing all the volunteers and finding the right fit for each individual that wants to help.
So one can do it online.
Or they can walk in the door.
Or they could walk in your facility.
Absolutely.
Okay. And where are you located?
We're at 19 Brewster Cross Road in Orleans, so right behind Friends Market.
Oh, yes. Okay. And how about the Homeless Prevention Council? Do you rely on volunteers?
We absolutely do. I would say at any given time, we probably have about 50 active volunteers supporting anything from answering the phones and greeting people at our front desk when you walk into our building, to supporting whether it's our backpack to school program that runs every year. We've got a very active group of volunteers that come in and collect items, pack the backpacks, distribute them to families. We also have our Adoptive Family for the Holidays program, which is getting into full gear now, which involves many volunteers, similarly collecting gifts and helping to distribute and work on those items. And then we have various fundraising events and other activities throughout the year that we're utilizing volunteers to help with. So I think volunteers are essential, right, to both of us.
Absolutely.
So. Well, certainly the need is great. And you are both working very, very hard. All of you are working very hard to meet those needs. How many people would you say you serve in a year?
So we are serving on average about 2,500 people a year. It was in the sort of high thousands, close to about maybe 1,800 prior to the pandemic, and then service need increased by about 70%. So we had this sort of shocking increase, and then I would say that we've leveled out to some degree. Although where we see particular needs is for sure growing needs among really our workforce. We're seeing our demographic, the largest growing demographic is 25 to 54, which tells me and everyone, right, that it's part and full-time employed people. These are a lot of families who are struggling, who come in and need support. So I would say on average about 2,500 a year.
So affordable housing is a huge issue on the Cape. Everyone is talking about it, fortunately. Right. Hopefully more is being done about it all the time. But that is a real problem, as we know. So it's great that you're able to help people out in that regard. So many people can't afford to live here or can't find places. They just simply can't find places.
Right. It's tough to find rentals or affordable housing, and also the cost of living, I think that we find for sure is a big driving factor.
Right.
Issues.
Okay. And how about the Lower Cape?
So, as I said, our services are fairly different. We've seen about, in 2022, we saw about 1,600 households, which was over 3,000 people that we served. Unfortunately, we're actually about at those numbers right now, even though we still have a whole quarter left in the year. And the majority of that has really been in our food pantries. Last year, we actually saw a 95% increase in the number of household visits to the pantry when we looked at January to December. And the average number of household visits this year has actually increased again by 52%. As of the end of, that was, where are we, October? So that's including the end of September's numbers. So it's just the need is, like you said, really great. And I think the utilization of the food pantry and the growth there is individuals really taking advantage of reducing their food costs, given the rising cost of food and inflation and everything else. So they're able to put more towards their rent because rents are continuously going up.
Right. So can you clarify, if people are using your services, are they also able to utilize the food bank, the Cape Cod, the
Harwich Family Pantry?
Harwich Family Pantry, the food bank, yes.
Yeah, so, Chris Menard and I, we don't compare notes on our clients.
Yes.
We encourage our clients who either live or work or any of the towns that we serve to visit our food pantries once a week, if that's what their situation demands.
Yes.
We have a great working relationship with the Family Pantry. We actually pick up our food from the Greater Boston Food Bank at Chris's
Yes,
crosstalk.
right.
But no, I mean, I can't say whether or not, but being that we both have a presence in Harwich, I can assume that there's some overlap there.
Yes, yes. So people are able to do that if they need it. Very
Absolutely.
important. Right. So you're all working for the same ends, obviously. Yeah. So what can other people do to support your organizations? I know money is always helpful.
Sure, I was going to say,
Right.
you said it
Try not to
first,
lead
right?
with that, yeah.
But no, absolutely. I'm making donations to support local organizations that are helping people in need is really critical. Volunteering, for sure, I would say. I have been talking a lot with people about just becoming stronger advocates in the community for the needs of our community members that are struggling. You know, I think when you hear Katie talk about food access, for example, the cost of inflation, the high cost of living, it's significant. It's really affecting our local friends and neighbors, and we need folks to stay and live and work here to keep our economy healthy. And I think getting that message across to the community is so critical to help people feel like they can be part of the solution, whether they're able to turn a short-term rental into a year-round rental, right, or make a contribution. There's all sorts of ways to get involved.
I see. Yes, yes. So for everyone to be aware of the need and to be aware that they can come to certain organizations for help.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else you would like to address before we wind up? This is all very important information.
No, I would just echo what Hadley just said. It's just getting the message out there and talking about us. There was just an article about our Chatham Pantry in the Chronicle just last week, and the feedback those pantry managers got was, I had no idea the need was so great in our community. So really just keeping that message going, and those that can help support whichever way that they can is really what we're hoping for, especially going into the holiday season. I don't know about Hadley, but it's one of our busiest times.
Absolutely. This is a very, very busy time of year. We are working with, lots of families, existing, clients, as well as new people coming in to get people lined up for fuel assistance for the winter. There's a lot of people in the community that are eligible for fuel assistance that don't realize that they are.
Okay.
And it's a higher income threshold than some of the other federal and state programs. So there are ways in which, we can try to buoy and support families and local individuals in need to get through difficult challenges, including living in a seasonal economy, which is easier said than done, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So it's important for people to know about you and to know how to reach you and to know that they can call with questions if they have a question about how either they themselves need support or someone they know may be in need. And
absolutely.
Try to access the services through your organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, and going into the holidays, where anybody who may know somebody or they themselves needs any, we're going to do a new coat distribution for not just children but adults, which can be accessed through our food pantries. We have a Thanksgiving meal distribution, which we try to provide everything a household needs to make a Thanksgiving meal.
Okay.
The Santa Stop is our holiday toy distribution, and one of our more fun fundraisers that we just took over last year, Chatham Turkey Trot, will be running on Thanksgiving morning at 8:00. If anybody's interested. We had a great time last year, and the weather was great, so we're hoping for the same this year.
That's right. That's right. Well, this is great. Thank you so much for coming in and filling us in on the Homeless Prevention Council and the Lower Cape Outreach Council. And I hope that people will utilize these services and also access them in any way for other people's needs. So thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
This is Dinah Lane from the Harwich Channel. Thank you.